Human mechanic revives a dying giant ship, turns it into the ultimate galactic weapon in the farthest reaches of the Andromeda cluster, where stars were thin and planets few. A giant warship drifted silently through the void. Its hull, once gleaming silver, was now scarred and blackened by centuries of neglect. Broken antennas jutted out like splintered bones, and parts of the ship's armor had peeled away, leaving deep gashes that revealed the dark inner corridors within. To most beings in the galaxy, it was a corpse, a relic of a war long forgotten, unworthy of salvage.
But KL saw something different.
He hovered in his small repair craft, staring at the Colossus with a mixture of awe and hunger. To him it was not dead, it was sleeping, waiting for the right hands to wake it. Kale was human, and humans were stubborn. Where alien engineers saw only broken metal and useless machinery, Kale saw potential. He docked his craft at a cracked airlock, the clang echoing through the silent ship like a heartbeat. The airlock shuddered but eventually gave way, and he stepped inside, boots clicking on the metal floor. Dust swirled in the dim light of his portable lantern. The corridors smelled of rust, oil, and something older. History. "This is it," he whispered to himself. "The big one."
Kale had heard stories of this ship, known in ancient records as the Titan-class Leviathan.
Entire fleets had been built to destroy it, yet it survived every war, only to vanish from the galaxy's memory. Now he had found it. The first thing he noticed inside was the silence. Not just the absence of sound, but a heavy, expectant silence, as if the ship were waiting for someone who could understand it. The consoles were dark, their screens shattered or coated in dust. Some corridors had collapsed entirely, leaving jagged walls that blocked passage. But Kale was resourceful. He carried tools, spare circuits, and knowledge that had been passed down through generations of human mechanics. He set to work immediately, moving through the corridors, reconnecting severed wires, patching damaged conduits, and bypassing broken systems. Every step took him deeper into the ship's heart, where the main engines and the core waited. The task was enormous. This was not a repair job for one person. It was a resurrection. But KL thrived on challenges. Hours passed and the ship's hum began to change. A low, barely perceptible vibration ran through the floor. Kale paused, listening. It recognized movement, energy, perhaps even his presence.
"You're alive," Kale muttered, half to himself and half to the ship.
He grinned. Humans had a strange habit of talking to machines, a habit alien engineers never understood. Maybe it was the human touch, the curiosity, the creativity that machines responded to. Kale climbed into the engineering bay where the main power core lay dormant. It was enormous, spanning the width of the chamber, a lattice of metal and glowing conduits that had long since gone cold. Sparks flew as Kale worked, rewiring circuits and rerouting power from auxiliary batteries. Sweat ran down his forehead, and his fingers ached, but he did not stop. Every wire he touched, every circuit he repaired, was another step toward awakening the giant.
In the galactic colonies, humans were often underestimated. They were not the fastest, the strongest, or the most technologically advanced.
But they were relentless. Kale embodied that. While alien engineers might have given up after a day, he had already spent weeks preparing for this moment, studying the ship's schematics, scavenging parts, and learning its secrets. The Titan's defensive systems were particularly complex.
Ancient alien code, almost impossible to decipher, ran through the ship like veins of liquid metal.
Kale approached it like a puzzle, carefully analyzing patterns and testing small adjustments. He smiled when a section of the code responded, flickering, on a dormant display. "Yes," he whispered. "That's it." For the first time in centuries, the Titan systems began to stir. Lights blinked across the consoles, softly at first, then in waves. The ship seemed to breathe, shifting slightly on its docking supports, as if stretching after a long sleep. Kale felt a thrill run through him. This was no longer just a wreck. It was a living weapon waiting for a mind capable of understanding it. Suddenly a loud clang echoed through the corridor. Kale froze, hand on his tool belt. The ship was large, and sounds carried in strange ways. But this wasn't just the ship settling. There was movement. From a nearby shadowed passage emerged a drone, its sensors flickering on, its chassis ancient but intact. It hovered silently, its cameras focused on Kale. "Easy," he said calmly, holding up his hands. He knew the drone could be hostile, but it hesitated. Perhaps it recognized the human touch, or perhaps it simply paused, because no one had been here for centuries. Kale approached slowly, extending a small repair tool. The drone's sensors blinked rapidly, then it tilted slightly, allowing him to access its circuits. Within moments, Kale had rerouted its energy source, bringing it fully online. The drone's cameras whirred, scanning the corridors, then settling back on Kale. It emitted a soft hum, almost like approval. The Titan was not only responding to him, but it was accepting him as its master. Kale moved through the ship with renewed energy. Every corridor, every chamber held challenges. Some were physical. Collapsed floors, broken machinery, leaking energy conduits. Others were mental. Alien interfaces that resisted his understanding, cryptic warnings left by long-dead engineers. But Kale solved each problem with patience and creativity. He found the weapons control room next. Base. The turrets were locked, their mechanisms rusted and frozen. But Kale smiled. Humans were good at improvisation. He climbed inside, examining the control panels and manually adjusting the targeting systems. Slowly, the turrets began to swivel, responding to his commands. He imagined them like a giant set of arms, waiting for him to teach them how to fight again. Bed. Hours blurred into days. Kale ate little, slept less, and rarely paused. He spoke to the ship constantly, not expecting an answer, but the soft vibrations under his feet felt like acknowledgement. He worked tirelessly, adjusting, repairing, rebooting, and modifying. By the end of the week, the Titan's hull had been patched, its engines partially operational, and its core humming with cautious life. One evening, as Kale rested briefly in the engineering bay, he watched the stars through a cracked viewport. He thought about how humans were always underestimated, seen as weak, expendable, or unremarkable. Yet here he was, breathing life into a weapon that alien civilizations had long forgotten. Back. Humans may not have had fleets to rival the galaxy's superpowers, but they had ingenuity, courage, and persistence. And sometimes that was enough to tip the scales. Kale returned to the main core and began the final sequence. Sparks flew, and the lights flickered violently. The ship shuddered, groaning like a living creature stretching its bones. He pressed the last lever, holding his breath. A deep, resonant hum filled the entire vessel. The engines came to life, thrumming powerfully, sending vibrations through the floor. The lights across the corridors blinked on, one by one, like stars awakening in a dark sky. The Titan was alive. Kyle stepped back, eyes wide. "You're back," he said softly. "And you're mine now." He had no time to celebrate. Psst. From deep space, sensors registered movement. Alien scouts drawn to the sudden surge of energy. They would not ignore a Titan awakening. Kyle clenched his fists. The ship was powerful, but he knew intelligence and creativity would be the true weapon. Humans had survived countless threats through wit and courage alone. The moment had come. The Titan was awake, and the galaxy would soon learn that underestimating humans was a grave mistake.
Kale grinned.
Let's see who dares to challenge us first. As the ship powered its shields and the hum of its core reverberated through the hull, Kale felt a thrill unlike anything he had known. This was not just a repair, it was a rebirth. And in the cold, endless darkness of space, a human mechanic had just given life to the ultimate weapon. The stars outside seemed to shimmer, as if acknowledging the arrival of something new. Something unstoppable, something human. The stars outside the Titan's hull seemed to blur as Kale guided the ship through the empty expanse of the Andromeda cluster. The engines thrummed beneath his feet, a deep, vibrating pulse that matched his own heartbeat. Every corridor inside the ship was alive now, humming with energy, as if the colossal vessel itself understood it had been woken from centuries of slumber. Kale's eyes scanned the control panels, his fingers moving over the buttons and switches with confidence. He had done the impossible. Revived a warship that generations of aliens had abandoned. But there was no time for pride. Sensors were picking up signals. Small alien scout ships, approaching from several directions, drawn by the sudden surge of power.
Figures, Kale muttered, leaning forward.
Nothing good comes for free. The first alien scout appeared on the main screen, a sleek black craft shaped like a curved dagger. Its sensors glowed red as it advanced cautiously toward the Titan. KL studied it, noting its weaknesses in formation and shield patterns. Humans were not known for piloting enormous warships. They had to rely on clever tactics and adaptability.
And adaptability, Kale knew, was the one thing humans had in abundance. Time to teach them a lesson, he said, adjusting the Titan's targeting systems.
He didn't fire the main cannons. Instead, he activated the ship's automated decoy drones, small metallic spheres that could emit false energy signatures. The alien scouts slowed, confused by the ghost signals.
Then KL moved the Titan in a sudden arc, slipping behind an asteroid field.
The scout followed blindly, only to crash against jagged rocks. Kale grinned. Not bad for a warm-up. The next scouts arrived in greater numbers. 3 more ships, faster and heavily armed, approached from different vectors. Raised, Kale's heart raced, but he didn't panic. The Titan was not just a ship. It was a giant puzzle. Its weapons and shields were old, designed for a war long gone, but with careful adjustment and human intuition they could outperform much newer fleets. He activated the ship's turrets. They swiveled with precision, scanning the approaching scouts. Kale added a twist. Instead of attacking head-on, he used the turret's rapid targeting system to fire precise bursts, forcing the alien ships into evasive maneuvers. Every alien ship that tried to line up a shot found itself dodging invisible hazards, energy pulses, and debris fields. The scouts began to retreat, damaged and confused. Kale let out a short laugh. He knew this was only the beginning. Bigger fleets would come.
Bigger fleets would come. He would have to push the Titan to its limits to survive.
He moved through the ship, checking systems manually. The engineering bay now buzzed with life. Conduits glowed with energy, engines spun at higher capacity, and the life support systems hummed steadily. The Titan was learning, Kale realized. It adjusted faster than any machine should have, responding almost instinctively to his commands.
This is unreal, he muttered. You're alive, not just awake, but thinking. Kale spent hours testing the ship's capabilities. He discovered new energy channels in the power core, pathways that had gone unused for centuries.
By rerouting energy, he increased shield strength and enhanced weapon efficiency. He modified targeting algorithms, allowing turrets to anticipate movement rather than just react. Every adjustment made the Titan more formidable. He slept only a little, resting his eyes in the pilot's chair while the ship patrolled the nearby asteroid belt. In dreams, he saw the ship moving like a living creature, gliding between stars, its turrets sweeping with silent precision. Humans had survived because they could think differently.
Aliens often relied on brute strength or rigid systems. Kale relied on creativity, and he was about to prove it was deadly.
The next day, larger alien forces approached. This time, it wasn't just scouts. Several frigates appeared on the Titan's sensors, sleek and heavily armed, sending warnings in a language Kale didn't understand. He ignored the messages. Negotiation was impossible. Survival required action. Kale initiated a series of maneuvers he had designed only hours earlier. Using the asteroid field, he created false pathways and ambush points. The alien frigates moved cautiously, unsure of where to attack. Kale's turrets fired coordinated energy pulses, disabling propulsion systems on 2 of the ships without causing explosions that could harm the Titan. The remaining frigates hesitated, recognizing the danger. "This is what humans do," Kale said aloud, eyes shining with determination. "We adapt. We survive."
We win. But victory came with a warning.
Sensors picked up a massive vessel emerging from behind a dense nebula. A capital ship, far larger than the Titan, with shields and weapons far beyond anything Kale had ever seen. Its sensors locked on immediately, sending out pulses that made the Titan's hull vibrate.
Kale's pulse quickened. This was not a scout fleet. This was a hunting force, sent to destroy the awakened Leviathan.
He realized that reviving the ship had announced his presence to the galaxy. Every major faction would now see him as a threat. "Okay," he muttered, gripping the controls.
Time to see what you're really capable of. He rerouted all energy to the main power conduits, overcharging the engines for maximum maneuverability.
Turrets rotated faster, shields expanded, and auxiliary weapons systems activated.
Kale had learned enough to push the ship beyond its designed limits.
As the alien capital ship fired its first volleys, Kale anticipated the attack. The Titan weaved between energy blasts, using debris and asteroids as cover. Fast. He responded with carefully timed bursts from the turrets, targeting engine nodes and shield generators. One alien frigate exploded, the shockwave rocking the Titan but causing no real damage. Kyle felt a rush of exhilaration. Humans were supposed to be weak, defenseless, incapable of controlling such a weapon. But here he was, piloting a giant warship against the galaxy's best technology, and winning, not with brute force, but with cleverness, speed, and ingenuity.
Hours passed in a blur of movement, calculation, and improvisation.
KL discovered that the ship's semi-sentient systems could predict enemy patterns. The turrets fired in anticipation of the frigate's maneuvers. Shields shifted automatically toward incoming energy blasts, creating gaps for counterattacks. It was as if the ship trusted him, responding instinctively to his strategy. But finally, the alien forces retreated, damaged and cautious. Kyle let out a long breath, leaning back in his chair. The Titan hummed softly around him, almost as if it were proud. He smiled. "This is just the beginning," he said.
You and I were unstoppable.
He spent the next day exploring deeper sections of the ship, discovering hidden weapon caches, repair drones, and alien technology that no human had ever seen. Kale modified the systems, blending alien engineering with human creativity. Energy beams became sharper, shields more flexible, drones faster and smarter. Every improvement made the Titan a more terrifying force, a weapon that combined raw power with human ingenuity. Yet Kale knew the galaxy would not leave him alone. The first scouts were only the beginning. He had awoken a legend, and legends drew attention. Entire fleets would come, testing his skills, his creativity, and his courage. He returned to the pilot chair as the stars glimmered outside. The Titan's hum filled the ship, steady and confident. Kale realized that the galaxy would soon learn a lesson humans had known for centuries. "Underestimate us at your own risk. Let them come," he whispered. "We're ready." And somewhere deep within the Titan, systems whirred and lights pulsed as if in agreement. The ship was alive. Kale was its master. Together they would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. The alien capital ship hung in the void like a dark fortress, massive and intimidating.
Its black hull shimmered with energy shields, and long rows of turrets bristled along its sides.
But Kale stared at the display, hands clenched over the Titan's controls. This was no longer a fight of small skirmishes or scouting ships. This was a battle against a machine built to dominate entire systems, and it had locked onto him. Kale's pulse raced. He took a deep breath. Humans were not the fastest or strongest in the galaxy, but they had something no alien machine could predict: creativity. Burai. He smiled grimly. "Okay, big guy," he muttered. "Let's see how smart you really are." He pushed the Titan's engines to maximum. The ship groaned as power surged through circuits that had slept for centuries. Sensors tracked the capital ship's every movement. Kale noticed patterns, slow, deliberate maneuvers, almost rigid in design.
Alien engineers relied on overwhelming force, not flexibility. Humans could turn that rigidity into a weakness.
Kale initiated the first maneuver, a sharp, sudden twist, weaving the Titan between floating debris from shattered asteroids. The capital ship opened fire immediately, its energy beams cutting through space with deadly precision. The hull of the Titan vibrated as shields absorbed the first volleys. Sparks and static flashed on the main control panel. Kale gritted his teeth. He had survived scouts and frigates, but this was a different scale. "Bah. Time to improvise," he whispered. He activated the auxiliary drone system. Hundreds of small drones launched from the ship, forming a cloud of moving targets around the Titan. The capital ship's sensors tried to track them all at once, confused by the unpredictable patterns. Kale laughed aloud. Humans were masters of improvisation. While aliens relied on logic and routine, humans adapted. The first volleys of the capital ship missed, striking drones that exploded in harmless bursts of light. Kale used the moment to fire precise bursts from the Titan's turrets, aiming at weak points he had studied while observing the enemy's approach. The capital ship's shields flickered, and he noticed a small energy conduit exposed beneath the main shield generator. "That's your weak spot," he muttered.
And I'll take advantage of it. Kale initiated a daring maneuver. The Titan spun along its axis, avoiding the capital ship's main guns, and fired a concentrated beam at the exposed conduit.
Sparks flew, and the enemy's shields dimmed. He repeated the tactic, timing each shot to perfection, each movement unpredictable. The alien ship had never encountered anything like this. A single human mechanic was controlling a ship centuries older than their technology, and using it with brilliance. But the fight was far from over. The capital ship adapted, sending waves of automated drones that swarmed the Titan. Kale's heart pounded. He could not fight each one directly. Instead, he used the asteroid field once more, letting the ship's semi-sentient systems analyze trajectories. Drones collided with asteroids, or each other. The Titan responded instinctively, shifting shields and redirecting energy in microseconds. Despara. Tail barely moved his hands. He let the ship's systems do part of the work. The capital ship fired a massive energy pulse, and the Titan lurched violently. Alarms blared. Lights flashed red. Kale held on tightly, his mind racing through every system, every panel. Then an idea struck him. He initiated the ship's hidden core protocols, long dormant ancient systems designed to amplify energy and redistribute it across every weapon turret and shield. The Titan groaned, circuits glowing bright as power surged. Kale's scream widened.
Let's show them what humans can do!
The Titan fired every available weapon simultaneously. Turrets, energy beams, drones, and automated pulse cannons. The capital ship's shield strained under the coordinated assault. For the first time, Kale realized just how much potential this ancient weapon held. It was no longer just alive. It was fighting with him, anticipating, adjusting, and calculating. The capital ship staggered back, systems sparking and failing. Kale pressed the advantage, weaving the Titan around asteroids, dodging counterfire, and striking at weak points with surgical precision. Every move was calculated, yet instinctive. Human ingenuity was turning a seemingly impossible fight into a winnable battle, but the enemy was not finished. The capital ship launched a massive energy net, attempting to trap the Titan in a web of pulsing energy. Kale cursed under his breath. If caught, the ship would be immobilized, its systems overloaded. He had seconds to act. He thought quickly, rerouting auxiliary power to the main engines and simultaneously overcharging the shield grid. The ship shuddered as energy flowed in unexpected ways, bending the alien net around it.
Kale maneuvered sharply, slicing through the net and launching a counterattack that disabled the capital ship's main propulsion.
Kale exhaled slowly. The alien vessel was crippled, but it was still massive and dangerous. Any misstep could be fatal. He studied the ship carefully, noticing patterns in the remaining drones and weapons systems. He began improvising again, using a combination of decoy drones, energy bursts, and unpredictable movement to confuse and disable the enemy further. Hours passed in a tense, relentless struggle. Kale was exhausted, sweat running down his face, yet he could not stop. The Titan depended on him, and the galaxy depended on what he could do with this weapon. Every pulse, every adjustment, every shot was a testament to human determination. Finally, KL saw an opportunity. The capital ship's main energy core was exposed during a shield regeneration cycle. A single, precise strike could neutralize the vessel entirely. He took a deep breath, focusing on timing and alignment.
The Titan's main cannon fired, a beam of pure energy that struck the core perfectly.
The alien capital ship convulsed, its weapon systems overloaded, shields failing. Sparks and smoke erupted along its hull. Kale watched as it drifted helplessly, then powered down entirely. He had won. Kale leaned back in the pilot chair, heart pounding. He had survived against overwhelming odds, using creativity, intelligence, and human adaptability. The Titan hummed softly around him, alive and responsive. He smiled.
That's what humans do, he said quietly. We don't just survive.
We fight. We think. We win. The battle was over. For now. KL knew it was only a matter of time before more alien forces arrived. But the victory proved something vital. Even against overwhelming odds, a single human with courage, ingenuity, and determination could turn the tide of battle. He moved through the Titan, inspecting systems and repairing minor damage. Drones hummed, shields stabilized, and engines purred steadily. The ship was a living, breathing machine responding instinctively to his commands.
Kale realized that this bond between human and machine was more than control. It was partnership. But Galaxy would never see a human the same way again. The legend of a mechanic who revived a dead ship and used it to defeat a capital fleet would spread across star systems.
Humans were underestimated at their own peril. Kale looked out at the stars, feeling the power of the Titan beneath his hands.
The battle had proven the impossible was possible, and he knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, and threats would come again. But now, Kale and the Titan were ready. "We've shown them what humans are capable of," Kale said softly. "But we're not done yet. Not even close."
And deep within the Titan, circuits hummed in agreement, lights pulsing rhythmically as if the ship itself was prepared for the next challenge.
Together, human and machine had turned the tide, and the galaxy would never forget it.
The void of space stretched endlessly before Kale and the Titan. Stars glimmered coldly, distant and indifferent. Yet, despite the vast emptiness, Kale could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing in. Reports from sensors indicated multiple alien fleets converging on his location.
News of the revived Titan had spread faster than he expected. Every major faction now saw him as a threat, a human mechanic who had awakened a legendary weapon and dared to fight. Kale's hands hovered over the controls, steady despite the tension.
Pit. He had survived scouts, frigates, and even a capital ship. But now, the stakes were higher. Entire fleets loomed on the sensors, their numbers overwhelming. One wrong move could mean the end of the Titan, and the end of Kale himself. He exhaled slowly. "We'll show them what humans can do," he said, voice calm, yet firm. Together. The Titan seemed to respond, the hum of the engine steady, the turrets aligning with a precision that felt almost alive. Kale had learned to trust the ship, not just as a weapon, but as a partner, desperate.
Its semi-sentient systems complemented his own instincts, anticipating threats before he even saw them. The first wave of alien fleets arrived from the east.
Hundreds of ships, sleek and deadly, moved in coordinated formations. They opened fire simultaneously, energy beams cutting through space. Best. KL felt the vibrations through the Titan's hull, shields flickering as they absorbed the initial assault.
KL smirked.
Predictable. Instead of responding with brute force, he used strategy. The Titan shifted suddenly, weaving between debris and asteroid fields, making it difficult for the enemy to target effectively. Auxiliary drones deployed in swarms, creating decoys and false signatures, confusing the alien targeting systems. The aliens were fast, but Kale was faster. Not physically, but mentally. He adapted with every movement, every attack, improvising solutions in real time. His human intuition complemented the Titan's advanced systems. Together, they were more than just machine and pilot. They were a single, cohesive force. KL targeted the lead command ships first.
Using the Titan's enhanced turrets, he fired precise energy pulses at critical engine nodes.
The enemy formations began to falter as ships lost maneuverability. He rerouted auxiliary energy to the main cannon, overcharging it for a devastating strike. A massive beam of concentrated energy cut through the first wave, leaving a path of destruction in its wake. The remaining alien ships hesitated, confused by the human tactics. They were designed for predictable patterns, but Kale's creativity defied their programming. Every move he made forced them to react, and in reaction, they left openings he exploited with precision. Hours passed in a tense, relentless battle. Kale's focus never wavered. Sweat ran down his face and his fingers ached, but he continued, moving seamlessly between piloting, targeting, and system management. The Titan responded instantly, its semi-sentient core learning from every engagement, adapting faster than any alien fleet could anticipate. Then, Kale noticed the main threat. A massive alien flagship emerging from the shadows, larger than any vessel he had encountered before. Its weapons were immense, capable of obliterating smaller fleets with ease. Sensors indicated it was coordinating the alien forces, directing attacks with ruthless efficiency.
Kale's jaw tightened.
This was the true test. Humans might not have the numbers, but they had ingenuity, and Kale had the Titan. He initiated a daring plan. He used the ship's full power to create a series of energy decoys, mimicking multiple Titan-sized signatures in different locations. The alien flagship's sensors targeted the decoys, diverting its firepower and giving Kale the chance to close the distance. He weaved through the chaos, using the asteroid fields and debris clouds to mask the Titan's real position. When he was within range, Kale unleashed a precise, coordinated strike. Turrets fired in perfect harmony with drones, energy beams, and auxiliary cannons. The alien flagship convulsed under the assault, its shields failing in cascading waves. Kale focused on its core systems, targeting power conduits and command arrays. Sparks and smoke erupted across the ship as it struggled to respond. But the flagship was still dangerous. Its remaining fleets tried to flank the Titan, closing in from multiple directions. Kale gritted his teeth. He couldn't fight them all at once, but he didn't need to. He relied on what humans excelled at: strategy and adaptability. He lured the fleets into a narrow corridor between two asteroid belts. There, the Titan's weapons had the advantage. Turrets fired from multiple angles, drones swarmed, and energy pulses ricocheted off the rocky surfaces. Alien ships collided or were destroyed as Kale manipulated the battlefield, like a master chess player. Finally, Kale returned his attention to the flagship. It had tried to escape, but he anticipated its trajectory. Using the full power of the Titan, he fired a massive concentrated beam directly into the core. The flagship shuddered violently, systems failing, weapons offline. But sparks exploded along its hull, and the massive vessel drifted powerless in space. Kale exhaled, leaning back in the pilot chair. The battle was won. Entire fleets had been defeated, scattered, or destroyed. The Titan hummed proudly, almost like a living creature celebrating victory. Humans had survived against impossible odds, not through sheer power, but through ingenuity, courage, and relentless determination. Kale knew this victory would change the galaxy. The story of a human mechanic reviving a legendary warship and defeating fleets far superior in numbers and firepower would spread across star systems.
Humans would no longer be underestimated, but Kale was not finished.
He moved through the Titan, checking systems and repairing minor damage. Drones hummed, shields stabilized, and engines purred steadily. The ship was alive, responsive, and ready for whatever came next. He looked out at the stars, knowing that threats would continue to come. Pays. Entire factions could not ignore a human with the Titan. But Kale smiled. Humans thrived in adversity. They turned challenges into opportunities. And now, with the Titan at his command, he could ensure that humanity would never again be defenseless. He returned to the pilot chair, hands steady on the controls. The Titan's hum filled the chamber, a rhythm that matched his own heartbeat. He set a course for uncharted space, away from the remnants of the defeated fleets. The galaxy was wide, full of danger, but also full of possibilities. Kale leaned back, eyes shining with determination. We've proven ourselves, he said quietly. Now, let's see how far we can go. The Titan responded with a soft, resonant hum, as if agreeing. It had been asleep for centuries. waiting for someone worthy to awaken it. Kale had risen to the challenge. Together, they were not just a weapon, they were a symbol of human ingenuity, courage, and resilience. As the ship glided into the darkness of uncharted space, Kale knew this was only the beginning. The galaxy would test them again, but no matter the odds, humans had proven that they could overcome the impossible. In the distance, a nebula shimmered like a beacon. Kale plotted a course. Basse, adventure, danger, and discovery awaited. But one thing was certain. Wherever there was a threat, wherever the galaxy faced a challenge it could not solve, humans would rise. And with the Titan at his command, Kale would ensure that humanity's legacy was more than survival. It was dominance, ingenuity, and the courage to face the impossible. The stars stretched endlessly, but Kale and the Titan moved through them with purpose. They were alive, aware, and unstoppable. The galaxy would never forget the day a human mechanic revived a dying giant and turned it into the ultimate weapon. And as the Titan hummed through the void, Kale smiled, knowing that humanity's story was only beginning.